Would like to call to order the City of Menasha Board of Public Works Committee meeting. Clerk Galeazzi, could you please take roll call?
Alderman Taylor? Here. Alderman Krautkramer?
Here.
Alderman Olszewski? Here. Alderman Zielinski? Here. Alderman Spencer? Here. Alderman Benner? Here. Alderman Nichols? Here. Alderman Keehan has been excused.
First order of business is to approve our minutes from March 21st, 2016. Is there a motion? Alderman Nichols?
I'll move to approve the minutes from March 21st, 2016.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have several action items this evening. Our first action item is a street use application for the Memorial Day Parade, Monday, May 30th, 2016, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., sponsored by the American Legion VFW. Is Director Radke, is there any information?
Really there are no changes from past Memorial Day parades, other than there's a slight change in the lining up of the parade units involving 2nd Street. Other than that, no changes.
Thank you, Director. Is there a motion to approve? Alderman Taylor?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve street use application, Memorial Day Parade, Monday, May 30th, 2016, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. American Legion and Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW. Thank you.
Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries the council. Second action item is another street use application, this for Diablo Cycling Criterium, Saturday, May 14th, 2016, from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m., sponsored by Diablo Cycling Club. Director Radke, is there anything we need to know about this activity?
Again, this is similar to past years, although there was a slight course change for this event. They lengthened it slightly, but other than that, everything is the same as previous years, and we're recommending approval.
Thank you, Director. Is there a motion? Alderman Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve street use application Diablo Cycling Criterium, Saturday, May 14th, 2016, 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. Diablo Cycling Club.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Taylor.
Director Radke, is there a 30-day notification to the neighborhood? What is that process? And that is done by the cycling club, by the applicant?
I'm not sure how much notice is required, but yes, the applicant will be, and that was made, a point was made of that at our pre-event meeting, and they are aware of that and will be doing that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries the council. Our third action item is Ordinance 0-2-16 regarding construction site erosion control, which will repeal and recreate Chapter 6 of Section 6 of the Municipal Code. Director Radke, could you give us some information on that, please?
Yes, when you look at what's in the packet, it looks like that's a huge ordinance change, and in fact it is. The city operates under a general permit for its stormwater discharge, and the latest permit that we did receive from the DNR indicated that we must be in compliance with Wisconsin Administrative Code NR 151, which is the runoff management rule for the state. And we had to be in compliance by May 7th, in our case, of this year. So if you recall, we had McMahon Engineers perform a stormwater management plan for the city, and they recently presented that at the council. Part of that study was the request and the service to rewrite the two ordinances that needed to be rewritten in order to be compliant with NR 151. They did that and submitted that to us, and now we have those before us to follow through with adopting the new chapters regarding stormwater. What NR 151 did with their latest revision was to try to standardize some of the standards for various permitted and non-permitted construction sites. And they also wanted to provide consistency with how we measure some of these standards and the performance standards within each of those. So just a summary of the changes in NR 151 is a 7-page document, and that's not listing everything, it's just a summary of the changes. So that is why the ordinances themselves had to be pretty much rewritten, sections of them, and that's what's in the packet tonight. So we are requesting that these ordinances be forwarded to the council for adoption, and I will take any questions you have. Essentially, these changes in here, we didn't really highlight them all because there were so many, but what they do is reflect the changes in the Wisconsin Administrative Code and as required by our pollutant discharge permit from DNR. So we don't really have a lot of choice in that. The standards will not really make that great of a difference on construction projects. They just take some of them take a different look at how we measure the standards that are achieved on these projects. It also does add one other criteria for the flood control element of a project, but it's a minor one, and it's in the city's favor. So I would entertain any questions that you might have.
Is this going to require us to buy any additional materials for testing or measuring? Or?
No.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Alderman Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 0-2-16 regarding construction site erosion control.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you. Director Radke, you mentioned that this is an effort to match our requirements with the Wisconsin Administrative Code, and that the state has uniform standards across the state, and I'm curious as to whether or not those new standards are more lenient or stricter, or how they differ from the previous standards.
They're not that much different from what they were. In some situations, they might be a little more lenient. In others, they might be a little more restrictive. I mentioned the flood control one. That's slightly it adds a small additional requirement for runoff rates. I'm trying to think of what other. They did also add for non-permitted construction sites, which are the smaller sites. They didn't require these sites to meet a numerical standard like they do for the larger sites, but what they did add was that they have to meet objectives of keeping sediment out of the waters of the state. So I think there were 6 or 7 different criteria in how to do that. Create vegetation zones, create buffers, make sure that your erosion control is set up properly, and that type of thing. So they did it more in a generic manner. But all in all, it was to try to bring consistency and uniformity, to also acknowledge that there could be targeted standards that the municipality could create if they needed to in particular situations. In our case, we have the Lower Fox River TMDL. So those standards are greater than what might be required with the old rule. But that's something that we have to do. And fortunately, they give us a lot of time in order to meet those more restricted standards.
Okay, and you mentioned the Fox River Lower Basin TMDL, and so am I hearing correctly that we would have an opportunity to make our erosion control requirements, I don't want to use the word more strict, but that's what comes to mind, if we needed to control,
we would
to
have
lower
to
our TMDL?
We would have to justify the need to do that.
Okay.
And I think that we will, our standards are now based on that TMDL. And if we meet the standards that were contained in our stormwater management report, then we will be able to meet the TMDL levels, both from a total suspended solids measurement and also with the phosphorus removal.
Okay, that sounds great, thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman Zelinski.
Thank you. The erosion control, what kind of impact is this going to have on commercial and residential properties?
That stays the same. Well, the residential single and two family is not controlled by this. That's under the Department of Safety and Professional Services, which used to be Department of Commerce. That remains the same. Commercial, again, there's not a lot of change except for the smaller commercial projects, in which case they would have to meet those generic objectives. And just saying that, okay, you need to control erosion and sediment from your site, which is what we do now anyhow. But there are no additional measurements that will be taken or numeric standards that have to be met for those projects.
So is there any enforcement for current sites that became like parking lots becoming worn down and tracked into the streets? And
Not really, unless, I mean, if it's a city parking lot, there would be.
nothing for commercial or,
Not if it's an existing, unless it's already permitted.
well, if they're just neglected over time? All of a sudden you're tracking a lot of mud and sediment into the streets? That has nothing
No,
to
but
do with
anytime
this?
that they upgrade that site, then we can apply those.
Okay. I just see the erosion means a process by which land surface is worn away. And there's a lot of wear and tear on some of these businesses, and I know some in my district that are making a big mess. But can that be enforced on this, and who does the policing?
Well, I don't know, that would be at off-site, possibly. I mean, Greg just mentioned that if it were an illicit discharge, and I suppose we could liberally apply that portion of the rule to say that it's an illicit discharge because you're transporting sediment into the water of the state, and then we could go after them on that basis.
So I noticed.
That's not a part of these two
Okay.
code sections, but we do have that in our code.
There's a couple of construction sites on Racine Street which are bringing mud into the street and into the gutters and stuff. And
Those we
who
can-
does that enforcement?
We do that enforcement.
Okay.
If you're talking about erosion control?
Yes. And you probably know which ones they are. Just where they tore down some buildings, there are some houses, and
Okay.
screening is shot.
Yeah.
And,
Well, we will take a look at that then, yes.
okay.
That's-
Then I noticed a commercial building that they were supposed to get some landscaping in where the erosion control is gone, and trucks are driving through it and tracking it down the streets. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman Benner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mark, a few things. Mr. Mayor, sorry about that. One election ahead of time for you. Sorry about that. Mr. Chairman. Mark, as far as permitting goes now, so this will be an additional permit for commercial buildings?
No,
It will not?
no. It's just that some non-permitted sites are now obligated to meet those objectives.
Oh, I see.
As far as permitting, those pretty much remain the same.
Okay, and enforcement, it says in here enforcement is through Public Works. Enforcement will still be through our commercial building inspectors for new construction projects.
For the commercial projects,
Yeah.
building inspection does what we do.
Yeah, because that's still covered under SPS 321, 125, I believe. So, okay.
I'll
But
trust you on
that's
that
for
one.
That's for 1 and 2 family, but,
Okay.
and then, but part of the struggles that I have is with some of the 1 and 2 family stuff is the post-construction, where people don't finish, as Alderman Zelinski alluded to, you know, some landscaping isn't done, or they don't put their grass in, things like that, and that becomes a struggle to get that done, does that get done then through Public Works? Because
No.
post-construction is exempt for 1 and 2 family, correct?
Correct.
With this? So,
Post-construction deals more with installation of BMPs and the operation, like ponds, biofilters, that type of thing. Under what your scenario, that would still be under the erosion and sediment control portion until you have a site that is fully vegetated or incomplete.
right.
That's still, and that would be under
That
the
should still be
building
under the
inspection
permit, right?
department.
Okay. So you won't get involved in that unless somehow there's a
We
breakdown?
do talk
in
about it a
getting that
lot,
done. Right.
because that is a problem area. It seems to
is.
be the most problematic, and continues to be.
But then what if something comes up, say, where a neighbor, I have a situation even now, the mayor and I were talking about it, where a neighbor did something that changed their stormwater drainage off their lot and it negatively affects a neighbor. How does that get addressed?
Depends.
Don't look at Greg,
Again,
he's out
I
here.
think we, I think it starts with the building inspection, but if they need assistance from Public Works, we would work together.
Would you
on
have
that.
authority through this to help them or not?
No.
No? So it would only be from a guidance perspective?
Right,
Okay.
yes.
So, no, I guess that's it. I was just kind of wondering about how that fee schedule works in, because if the erosion control is still covered under new construction, is covered under the building permit, the fee is just for if we're doing those additional projects like you had talked about.
Yeah, and there is a separate fee for erosion control outside of the 1 and 2 family residential. And that's something that, we should evaluate and see if that fee is, is still appropriate.
So we have one that's existing right now.
Yes.
We just don't know if it truly covers our costs or not.
Yeah, I was saying we should probably review that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's both for erosion and sediment control and post-construction, as you had mentioned
Sure.
before.
Okay.
So in the case of new construction or substantial alterations, we have our site plan and stormwater review, not review, but escrow accounts that put funds in from the developer, or we get a letter of credit that would cover the cost of putting those improvements in were the developer to fail to make those improvements. And that's been reasonably effective in gaining compliance on things, not just there, but with the landscaping and so forth.
Yeah, I know that was implemented a few years ago, but have we ever, I don't believe that we've ever used that yet, have we?
It's just a matter of us withholding the release of those escrows. That's been effective. in
So it's been
getting people
effective
to-
as a tool to actually get them to do it. We've never had to actually take those dollars ourselves and do the work yet. I didn't think so. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call 7-0.
Our last action item is ordinance 0-3-16 regarding post-construction stormwater management, which will repeal and recreate Chapter 7 of Section 6 of the Municipal Code. Director Radke, could you inform us of that, please?
Well, what I just said for the other one goes for this one. So
Thought
I
heard
don't think
something.
you want to hear all of that repeated, but this just deals with the next chapter, which is the post-construction stormwater management, which Alderman Benner was asking about before. And again, we're making these changes to be in compliance with our discharge permit and with Administrative Code Section NR 151 as it relates to post-construction stormwater management.
Okay, thank you, Director. Any further discussion? Alderman Taylor.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 0-3-16 regarding post-construction stormwater management.
Motion and a second. Alderman Zelinski.
This is why Greg's retiring, so he doesn't have to memorize this?
Okay, seeing no other action items, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Oh, we got to vote. Well, let's vote first. That's important. Just ahead of the game here.
Motion carried on roll call 7-0.
Okay, now I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and still a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Broadcasts of the City of Menasha Administration Committee, Board of Public Works, and Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Menasha residents and interested parties can obtain information about these meetings and meeting agendas from the city website, www.cityofmenasha-wi.gov. Expression of opinions regarding City of Menasha issues or about these broadcasts can be made by contacting the Mayor's Office, 920-967-5117. Contacting their City Alderman. Contact information appears on the website. Completing the electronic feedback form on the website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.